and welcome back to the Gridiron Challenge. Battle of the States and Providences, Week 0. This is going to be one of the quicker videos of the year, because we don't got a lot of games going on. But without further ado, let's get going. Starting off with Week 1, there's Pod 1, there's not really any change at all to this. Nobody really played, so let's just go on and get into Week 1 schedule. Week 1, we have South Dakota State starts their challenge for a three-peat as they travel to one of the Big 12 favorites, Oklahoma State. And then we got Saskatchewan travels to Manitoba for their first game of the season. Again, Pod 2, no change, nobody played this week. But as for the Week 1 schedule in Pod 2, we have 4 teams will be playing with Wartburg off this week. Benedict has Virginia State coming to town. St. Francis Xavier travels to Bishop. And New Hampshire travels to Central Florida. All those should be really good games. New Hampshire's probably going to unfortunately have a tough time down in Central Florida. But overall, it should be a good week of starting off with Pod 2. Let's go out to Pod 3, where we have SMU played Nevada. SMU was able to start off their 2024 season with a 5-point win over Nevada, coming out with 11 points for the week. So they are now the number 1 team in this pod. Well, let's see how they're going to do. Will they be able to maintain their lead as they head to Houston Christian? Houston Christian's coming to them. And then Manitoba, like I've said before, travels to Saskatchewan. The only team that played in Pod 4 is Mount Allison. They were able to squeak out a win over Arcadia. They ended up with 6.5 points going into Week 1. For Week 1, all the teams are playing, but Mount Allison. So teams are going to be trying to catch up with that slim lead Mount Allison has built up. Oregon has Idaho coming to town. Friends travels to Leavenworth, Kansas to face St. Mary's. And Boise State travels to Statesboro, Georgia to play Georgia Southern. Pod 5, all the teams are off except Montreal this week. Montreal started off their season as the defending U Sports National Champion in dominating fashion over Sherbrooke with a 31-point win, giving them a total of points of 36 points and 0.5 points. They're going to try to maintain their lead as all teams but Central Missouri plays in Week 1. Montreal is traveling to Miguel. Alabama has Western Kentucky coming to Tuscaloosa, and Howard is traveling to Rutgers. Pod 6, all teams were off except Hawaii. Hawaii was able to get a win over Delaware State by 21. They were able to get 26 points on the board for their starting off. Going into Week 1, all 4 teams will be playing in Week 1, with Hawaii looking to expand their lead as UCLA comes to Honolulu. Michigan has Fresno coming to the Big House, and Notre Dame is traveling down to the 12th man of Texas A&M. Oklahoma has Temple coming to town. Everybody was off in Pod 7. Going into Week 1, only Delaware is playing. Delaware is looking to start off strong as they have Bryant coming to town. Western Ontario was the only team playing in Week 0 as they travel to Ottawa, Ontario. They were able to take care of Ottawa on the road with a 27-point win, giving them a total of 33 points. Mount Union is the only team off going into week 1. Western Ontario looks to push their lead as Waterloo comes to town. Delta State travels to Mars Hill University in North Carolina, as Wyoming travels down to the desert of Arizona State. Pod 9, everybody was off again. Going into week 1, only Monmouth is playing a game. Monmouth travels to the red field of Eastern Washington. Pod 10, everybody was off. For week 1 in Pod 10, only North Central Illinois is off. As North Dakota State will travel to face Deion Sanders and the Colorado Bison. Charleston, West Virginia travels to Salisbury, North Carolina to face off against Livingston. And Southern Utah travels to face the Utah Utes. Everybody was off in Pod 11. Only LSU is going to be playing in week 1, as they travel to Las Vegas for the Modelo Vegas Kickoff Classic to face USC in a neutral site game. Pod 12, everybody's off. Wayne State, Nebraska is the only team that's playing this week, as they have Missouri S&T coming to town. Again, Pod 13, everybody was off. Only Houston will not play in week 1. Pikeville has Campbellsville coming to town. Georgia will travel up the road to Atlanta to play Clemson in the Aflac Kickoff in a neutral site game. Then you have the Washington Huskies welcome Weber State to town. Pod 14, no change. Only Cortland State doesn't play in week 1 in this pod. Montana welcomes Missouri State to town, as New Mexico State welcomes Southeast Missouri to Las Cruces, and UNLV travels to Houston. There is no change in Pod 15, as everybody was off. For the week 1 schedule of Pod 15, only Northwestern Iowa doesn't play in week 1. Bethel, Tennessee starts their season as they welcome Point University to town. Penn State travels down to Morgantown to face off West Virginia, as Alberta travels to British Columbia. And that's kind of our roundup. Like I said, this is going to be kind of one of the quicker videos. We'll have a lot more to go over next week, as we have a lot more teams playing. Again, I hope you guys enjoy this videos. I do have a Twitter up, the College Gridiron Challenge on Twitter. You can pretty much search that everywhere I go. I'm still trying to kind of get all my social medias in line. I hope you guys enjoy. Let's root on our teams.